Right, good morning everyone. Welcome to this meeting of HFRA Standards and Governance Committee. This meeting is being held remotely and will be recorded and broadcast live via the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Service website. Katie, have we any apologies for absence?
No, we have no apologies.
Thank you. Declarations of interest to enable members to disclose to the meeting any disclosable pecuniary interest they may have in any matter on the agenda for the meeting, where that interest is not already entered in the authority's register of interests, and any other pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests in any such matter that members may wish to disclose.
Chairman.
Yes, Councillor Glenn.
You moved on very quickly. I'm going to apologise for Jeff Hockley, because I'm sure he's going to try and make it.
Okay, well, we hope to see Jeff in the next few minutes. He might be having trouble logging on.
I apologise for his lateness, okay?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Councillor Glenn. If I could take you...
On item 2, Liz, can I just formally declare my involvement within the pensions panel for the authority and also a member of the National Pensions Board, just so it's declared.
That's fine. Katie, can you take a note of that?
Yes, sorry, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. If I could take members to the minutes of the previous meeting. Does anyone wish to say anything about the minutes, or is everyone happy with them?
I'm okay with them.
Okay. Everyone seems to be nodding their heads, so that's fine. I'm not aware of any deputations. Is that right, Katie? No deputations?
That's right, no deputations.
And I have no announcements. So if we could go straight to item 6, which is the Internal Audit Progress Report. Karen, are you here?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you very much. Yes, this is just my regular progress report that I bring to each meeting. This year we've included this time we've included the financial years 1920 and 2021. I just wanted to update you really on what's been going on given the COVID pandemic. My team have continued to work on the plans remotely. We've obviously had to adapt our audit approach to finish off the work that we were undertaking as part of the 1920 plan. I think it's probably fair to say that it has slowed our progress, particularly in the audits that were planned for Q4. That was mainly around the follow-up work and the shared services reviews. It's also led to a slower start to the 2021 plan. And that's particularly around, quite understandably, requests to delay the reviews that will impact on operational staff because of the other pressures arising from COVID. We continue to assess the impact on our own resources because obviously our resources are spread over the year, and we'll be talking to colleagues around that. But importantly, we also continue to have monthly meetings with the service, and we will continue to review the plan, review the timings of the reviews, and to ensure that the plan still reflects the needs of the authority in the light of the new and emerging risks from COVID-related activity. There's been one change to the plan so far, that's on page 22 of your pack. And you'll also see, in terms of outcomes, there's 2 limited opinions. Again, the outline of that is on page 20 and 21, but I was intending to cover that perhaps more as part of the annual report item that comes next. The report also summarises the management actions. Again, I'm not going to say too much about that because that's covered by a later report from management. But what I did want to just draw attention to is that ongoing very positive picture of the reducing number of outstanding and overdue management actions. So that was just sort of the highlights from me. Thank you.
Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Fairhurst.
I'm not hearing anything.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Sorry. Thank you, Karen. And will we, as you said, we'll come to the two limited in the next bit anyway, won't we?
Yes, we will. Thank you.
Yeah. So can I ask members if they've got any questions apart from those two limited bits, because we'll come to those later. Councillor Glenn.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Good, I'm unmuted. I've been through all the papers with a fine tooth comb, actually, which is because we've got time to do this, which is great. Now I note that I've written just limited and adequate right across the board here, and frankly, I want you to know that I accept this because we've had much more important things to do. And the COVID issue basically runs through the whole agenda as far as I'm concerned. And so the fact that we've got a lot of limited and one or two adequates and only one substantial doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Glenn. Anyone else? No? Right, well, the recommendation, have we got a recommendation for this? No, that's item 7. Sorry, let's go back to item 6.
It's on page 11 of our packs.
Yes, it is. Thank you. I've just got there. The recommendation is that the progress in delivering the internal audit plans for 2019-20 and 2021 and the outcomes to date are noted by the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Authority Standards and Governance. Everyone happy then? Although,
Right.
yeah, I accept what Councillor Glenn said. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
I agree.
Right. Okay, so if we go on to agenda item 7, the annual internal audit report and opinion 2019-20. Karen, over to you again.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and I think I'm just probably about to pick up and echo what Councillor Glenn has just helpfully raised. So in this item, I'm bringing to you my annual report. It's a requirement of the public sector internal audit standards to give you an annual opinion on the arrangements for risk management, control and governance throughout the authority and the service. And it also provides an opportunity to reflect on the findings over the year and look for common themes and that sort of thing. And what I think you'll have seen from reading the report is that it reflects a really positive direction of travel over the past year that we have particularly observed as your internal auditors. I think the findings from our follow-up work, albeit that it was quite late in the year, but we were able to complete it with the support of colleagues in the service. But the outcomes of that and the reviews really do demonstrate that there's been significant work to develop and improve control. And whilst we're recognising in the report that there is ongoing work in some areas and that will take some time to firmly embed across the service, all of that leaves me to conclude that you now have an adequate framework of risk management, control and governance, which is a significant improvement, I think you all agree, on the past 2 years. And as I said before in the progress report, I think the direction of travel is also confirmed by that significant reduction in the outstanding and overdue actions in what has been an incredibly busy year. There were just a few points to note from the report that I wanted to draw to your attention. With regard to the shared services, you'll remember that there was a change of approach last year, and that the assurance on shared services predominantly now is provided by Ernst & Young through their eloquently named ISAE 3402 report, which looks at the controls working across that shared services space. And you'll see from the report on page 45 that that's a very positive outcome. I also wanted to just draw to your attention that our work in the year clearly predated the COVID pandemic issues. So the work was based on control mechanisms that were operating throughout the year. But as you'll appreciate from what I've just said on the progress report and planning, we will continue to work with the service to assess the impact that has on controls, if any. And there are still some work in progress areas which we continue to work on. So in terms of detailed findings, you'll find those on page 46. So that includes details of the follow-up work that we carried out and what we found there. It covers the position statements that we did on risk management, business continuity and disaster recovery, which was a very positive position, and details of the limited opinions that were concluded during the year and what has been done about those. But I think I must reflect, as I have done in the past, that we do enjoy a very open and honest working relationship with the authority and with colleagues in the service. And as an internal audit service, we would always be expecting to find and report on issues, because we are part of that governance process around continuous improvement and sort of highlighting areas which could be working better. So there will always be issues. And it's all about the balance, I think, that is important. And happy to take any questions. I think you're on mute, Chairman.
Sorry. Yes, Sharon.
Thank you, Chairman. Just not a question, but very positive that we are moving in the right direction, and thank you for that assurance. It's my contribution.
Thank you, Sharon. And yeah, and I think we must give thanks to Shanta for all the hard work she's done in turning things round. Her and her team have done a fantastic job. I just hope, and I'm sure it will, just carry forward. Okay, Councillor Glenn.
Chairman, just wanted to say having read throughout this, I tick off all the good points and I put asterisks at the bits that are negative. There's a plethora of positive phrases running throughout this whole program here. I've written down generally okay at the front of the agenda sheet, which is great. But I wanted to pick up on 11. This is the internal audit performance, because I want to congratulate the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Service for being above target on the customer survey response on the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Authority and the SIAP all partners. We're above target, which is good news. That's page 51 for those who are searching around, okay?
Thank you, Jonathan. Right, anyone else? Chairman, do you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you. I really just would want to congratulate everybody for the tremendous effort. Just that one sentence, over the last 12 months, we've seen a significant reduction in the number of open and overdue actions. I mean, that really, for me, that says it all. Just well done to everybody. And in spite of the pandemic and the constraints upon us, everybody is working so well together. So well done, Shanta, and well done to all your team. Carry on the good work.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I take you all to the recommendation that the Standards and Governance Committee accepts the Chief Internal Auditor's annual report and opinion statement for 2019-2020? Everyone happy? We don't have, yes?
Great.
Sorry, Katie, do we need to have a proper vote on that?
If everybody's happy, then that's fine, Councillor Fairhurst. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we go to the Internal Audit Management Actions Progress Report. And again, perhaps we should just leave you on the whole time. Do you want to carry on?
Oh no, Councillor Fairhurst, I think that's actually me now.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay.
No, it's fine. It's so thank you very, very much. I'm going to present now item 8, which is the services almost response, I suppose, which is the individual actions that are medium and high and still outstanding. So just to reflect, obviously it links quite nicely on from the previous items where we've been looking at the year in the round and the progress on delivery to date, and this is more of a snapshot in time. So key points really to draw out by exception are that we have really made a difference in terms of closing outstanding actions. We went from 81 to now 26. So that's fantastic news and has necessitated the work of colleagues across the service. In lieu of the cancelled previous committee meeting, we provided an update to the chair of this committee and others, and that's contained within the appendix. The reason I mention that is purely so you can see, even in a relatively short space of time between the papers for the cancelled May meeting and now, that progress has been made. So then just drawing your attention to what you can see within the table of outstanding actions, and really to point out with the business continuity one that whilst there is an element that's outstanding, all of our work around COVID and ensuring that the service is fit for purpose in terms of, you know, maintaining a response to communities around the county, we've had a huge emphasis on business continuity. And what we're also gearing ourselves up for potentially is a HMI inspection on how we've responded to and are responding to the pandemic. This is potential because it's yet to be commissioned by the Home Secretary, but I suppose the point in that is that there'll be a further level of independent assurance and opinion around our business continuity arrangements. So then moving on to the proactive pay claims, where there's a couple. Again, this topic we have discussed in previous committee meetings, and really to say on that, thanks to many colleagues, specifically finance colleagues, on the hard work to progress this. Is a very complex area. Some of those actions are contingent on ongoing work, so the imminent publication of the allowances handbook and also preparatory work, alignment work for the CFA as well. So I suppose in summary to say that we continue to work closely with internal audit colleagues on the delivery of this level of assurance, and that we continue to flex the plan to ensure that we've got the adequate controls around our governance mechanisms and our service delivery as well. And I think I'll stop at that point.
Thanks, Shanta. Councillor Glenn, your hand's still up.
No, it was down and I put it back up again for this.
Oh, okay, right. Carry on.
Thank you very much, Shanta. Lots of ticks here. However, we need to note paragraphs 14 and 15, page 61, where I've got a lot of asterisks about, one, the academy training audit and the procurement process, where there were some issues, okay? Don't need to go into them right now, but I want to make sure that these are all, let's say, highlighted at our next meeting.
Shanta? No? Okay, right, thank you. Right, if any other questions?
Sorry, Councillor Fairhurst, sorry, I was just trying to unmute myself. Just to respond, absolutely, Councillor Glenn, I think that's a wonderful example of where we've shone a light into an area that we know we need to improve on. So we would be very happy at the next committee meeting if that's what members wanted to bring an update.
Mm-hmm. That would be good. Alex,
other members agreed.
Yes, everyone's nodding, Jonathan. Alex, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to flag that in the previous report that Karen discussed, you can see in the table that there's already been significant progress on the academy audit, but again, happy to talk about that in subsequent committees, but just to give you some assurance that there's been significant progress in that area as demonstrated in that separate paper.
Good, thank you. Right, anyone else? Chairman? Sorry, Councillor Carter, did you wish to?
Sorry, you're Chairman.
Yeah, I'm Chairman. Sorry, Councillor Carter.
Really, just to reiterate what I said for the previous item, because my comments apply again. But just referring briefly to the inspection team, that will be, and I don't think they've published it, Shanta, yet, but it will be a virtual response They won't be coming to visit as an inspection team. So I assume they're going to be sending a series of questions or for you to respond to.
Absolutely, yes. So whether it's with working closely with the internal audit team or indeed with the HMI, absolutely everything at the moment is virtual. So yes, to answer your question.
But does that benefit us or not, in a way that last time they were going out to various stations and speaking to people to get opinions? Are they going to self-select and do that, or will they not?
So I think that they will still be able to pretty much get into any area of the service. We have ensured that the stations have been kitted out with the right technology to enable that sort of virtual video conferencing. But I suppose we'll probably have to lead their hand a little more, where they'll be a little bit more dependent on us to signpost, perhaps. But having said that, that would be the case if they were here in person as well. Our role in that inspection week or when they're on site is very much to facilitate that.
Super, thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, if we go to the recommendation on my papers, it's page 58, that the Standard and Governance Committee notes that, despite the impact of COVID-19, significant progress has been made towards the implementation of the internal audit management actions. Everyone happy? Yeah, Sharon's happy, Roger's happy, Jonathan, you're happy.
Yeah.
Right, we're all happy. So if we go on to agenda item 9. Sorry, that was the wrong recommendation, wasn't it? But anyway, we've noted the implementation. Right, if we go on to agenda item 9, the annual governance statement.
Yeah, Chair,
that's Matt, is it?
Yes, Chair, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Morning, members. So item 9 on page 67 of your pack is the annual governance statement. So an annual report, the format of which you're probably familiar. So this is a legal requirement to publish the annual governance statement each year, and it forms part of the statement of accounts. So the actual appendix has the annual governance statements. That's on page 73, and you should see in that it's been updated for activities that have happened this year. In the first section, obviously outlines why we have one. So it's ultimately around making sure that the business of the authority is conducted in accordance with the law and to proper standards, and that we have the right mechanisms in place to safeguard public money and have a sound system of internal control. So you'll see that the structure of the paper follows as it did last year. So from part 3 of the appendix is structured around the 7 core principles of good governance, and I'll just draw out some of the key things that have been updated. So over the year, you'll be familiar with our new policy, procedure and guidance framework, and members for the full authority have seen a number of those policies come through for your consideration. So that's now embedded and captured within the AGS. Obviously, the new safety plan, which is a first in terms of being combined with the Isle of Wight, so that's also captured, and there's an extensive piece in section 3.2 of the statement around the good practice that was done around the public consultation of that and the independent validation that was assured there. So again, showing that there was good governance around engaging with the public. Equally, our strategic assessment of risk and how we manage risk, both external risk but also internal risk to the organisation with the new risk management framework, which again the Fire Authority signed off earlier in the year, back in February. And then under section 3.5, you can see the role of scrutiny by members, and obviously this committee's a very good example of that, and the relationship between senior officers and yourselves as members is outlined in that section. And the key bit really to draw your attention to is section 6 and 7 of the appendix. So section 6 is an action plan. So what are we committing to over the next 12-month period? And you'll see in 6.3 I think it's 4 seven key things that we've sort of committed to. So one's around the Constitution, getting prepared for the CFA, delivering the first year objectives within the safety plan, establishing directorate plans and aligning the activities of directorates to achieve those objectives. That's an internal piece of work. And then at the bottom of that page, it talks around virtual meetings. So establishing the protocols and the arrangements to hold virtual meetings in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. A piece around our policies and procedures around fraud and corruption. So we already have those in place, but actually ensuring that those are fit for purpose with the new policy, procedure and guidance framework that I just mentioned. New PDRs, so development profiles for staff being rolled out, and the organisational risk register being properly embedded. And then likewise in section 7, there's a summary of the actions that we said we would do last year, and just that assurance that those have been done. So that's in 7.2. So the statement then will be signed by the Chief House Officer, approved by Standards and Governance and the Chairman of the authority. Usually this would go to the full Fire Authority, but members will recall that at our last meeting of the Full Fire Authority, it was delegated to Standards and Governance to sign that off, which obviously is reflected in the papers. Hopefully that gives you a bit of a summary. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions, Councillor Glenigan?
Right. Thank you very much, Chairman, and thank you, Matt. Can I say it's a really good paper, and just a couple of very minor points. You mentioned risk management, risk assessment. If you go to 357, it mentions that the authority has a member development champion for development of members. So I think we ought to have the earlier one at 323 somewhere written in there that the authority has a risk assessment, whatever we call it, champion. To be consistent. I know, first of all, I'm speaking about my own role here. I'm working with Steve Apter. We've had several meetings, and I think if we're going to put in one, we should put in the other. It shows that the members are involved at what I call base level. The second point, I've got one other point, but do you want to answer that first?
Yeah, I can do. Yeah, I mean, we can certainly make that amendment. That's no problem.
The second one is at 3.7.13, where we're talking about the company, and Roger may be taking an interest in this. That's 3.7.13 on page 86. Are we still calling ourselves shareholders? I thought we dropped that.
So the committee is called the Stakeholder Committee, but ultimately the Fire Authority is the shareholder legally, and obviously the company has to have a shareholder. So okay. There is a shareholder, but the committee is called the Stakeholder Committee. Yeah,
that's right. So they were okay there. I just wanted to, it's one I'm very sensitive about. Okay. Look, I'm fine with that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. We actually have 3 options to look at here. Are we all happy with option 1?
I am, Chairman.
Sharon? Sharon's nodding. Roger? Yeah. Roger?
Yes, I'm happy.
Just nod.
Yeah, I was nodding.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so that's fine, Matt. So do I now sign this, or does the chairman sign it?
No, yes, we'll arrange for the chairman to sign it when the next in the office, basically.
Good, thank you. And Chairman, you're happy to sign it? Councillor Carter.
I'm just unmuting. Yes, indeed. I was listening to your discussion. I completely agree with the observation or the recommendation that Jonathan made. I'm always asking all members of the authority to ask questions, and this report highlights the role of scrutiny and the role that you as members of the scrutiny perform, and it is so important that you take part and scrutinise everything that's happening and ask questions that sometimes may be difficult questions. That's your role. So well done to you as members, and thank you for asking those questions. That was a bit long-winded, Chairman, but anyway, what I'm really saying is I really appreciate what you all do. It's really important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Katie, we don't need a vote. We're just we've all agreed, yes?
Yeah, if members are happy to agree the recommendations, because obviously there's an A and a B.
Yes. So members acknowledge that the arrangements continue to be regarded as fit for purpose in accordance with the Framework 2016 and the approved AGS to be included into the annual statement of accounts to meet the authority's statutory requirements. All agreed?
Agreed, Chairman.
Agreed.
Good, thank you. If we go to agenda item 10, is this you, Shanta?
Yes, it is. I have the pleasure of presenting the annual statement of assurance for the last year. So it complements what Matt Robertson has just presented in terms of the annual governance statement. So again, a document that members will be familiar with. We bring it to you on an annual basis. And the purpose of the document is to provide in an accessible way as possible, accessible language to our communities, to our public, an overview of effectively what we do and how we do it. And that's something that the National Framework for Fire and Rescue mandates for us. Although interestingly, the National Framework does not mandate the format in which the document should be produced. So what we have done in this year's annual statement of assurance is we've described everything that we do according to our operating model. So we've described how we're a policy-driven organisation. We go and do our integrated risk management planning, develop our policies, and then deliver our operational activity against that. We then review our performance and seek assurance on that we did what we said we do and that we're looking to improve. So that feeds back into ongoing policy. The other bit, which of course will be different from previous years, is it's prefaced by a statement around what we've done during the pandemic as well, to provide that assurance that we have maintained a fit for purpose in terms of our response, prevention and protection. And I think I'll leave it there. Very happy to take any questions or comments.
Comments, questions? Councillor Glenn again.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Shanta. Of course, the main page is 119, where you have the summary. And that basically tells you everything, and everything is pretty well either okay, ticked off and adequate. What I like is the second paragraph where it says, we have also made positive improvements in our prevention and protection activity and in our learning from operational incidents. However, we have further to improve in these areas. This sort of honesty I really like. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Jonathan. So is everyone happy that the annual assurance statement for 2019-20 be approved by the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Authority Standards and Governance Committee?
Agreed.
Agreed, Chairman.
Right, thank you. Shanta, this must be you again. The action plan and 2020 inspection update.
Yes, that's correct. Sorry, I was rapidly scrolling on my other screen through to that, that report. So yes, again, so this is the HMI progress report, which has come to committee on a number of times. The difference in this particular presentation is that I'm looking for members to approve the plan being closed. We have successfully closed 41 of the Hampshire actions. And again, rather helpfully, you have the appendix, which is the electronic submission we provided to members in lieu of the cancelled previous meeting, which gives some of the detail. And you will have seen that actually since, again, May to now, we've gone from 95% closure to 100% as well.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
And really, just the other point, again, you'll be very familiar with the progress that the service has been making against those improvement points, as we've obviously had a ongoing conversation with you about that. The point, one of the key points to draw out is that with our relationship with the HMI, one of the things that they will be interested in is how we've addressed the cause for concern around being more of an inclusive employer. So obviously we have lots of information to share with them on how that position and finding has significantly improved since they inspected us in July 2018. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Shanta. Sharon, did you want to come in there?
Yes. Thank you very much. Not a question, but congratulations on sort of closing off all of those actions, especially in the current climate. Congratulations, Shanta and team. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mintoff. I'll pass those on to colleagues.
Thank you. Councillor Price.
Thank you. I think that within this, the service has done what it needs to do to answer all of the questions the HMI have put to us. And I'm satisfied that we have dealt with them in the proper way. I'm satisfied that we've got answers to all of their questions. But I think the crunch will come is that when they get the answers, whether they agree that we've gone far enough. I think that the difficulty always is that we feel we've done what we need to do, but will the inspector feel that we've done what we should have done, and are we right? And I think one of the difficult areas is about the ethnicity of staff and all of that area, because government and inspectors seem to think that you can change that in a moment's time, but when you have a limited staffing, is that you can't change it just like that. Now, I think that it'll be interesting to see what their comments are when they come the next time about the issues they raise with us. Thank you.
The other thing I was going to ask Shanta is we feel you've answered all their questions that they put to us. We were one of the first fire authorities to be inspected. Have we done any research into them inspecting other fire authorities to see what issues were raised that they missed or didn't think about when they were doing us, that they might be bringing out in future inspections with us?
Yes, really good question. We have absolutely been linking in across the board with other fire and rescue services, and also so colleagues sit on the expert groups that feed into and advise a HMI. So, for example, Alex, a head of performance, sits on the technical advisor group, and actually Neil Odin also now is on the external reference group. So we do put lots of effort into keeping abreast as to what else is happening. I think that with the first round of inspections, it was really trying to compare apples with apples as much as possible. And absolutely, there were themes that came out through each of the three tranches, and then the State of the Nation report that was produced in early 2020. What we anticipate in the second round is they'll still be trying to get that sense of general themes, but they'll probably be moving into a more thematic space. But again, I think it's very much about us having a dialogue with them and influencing the HMI in terms of these are the issues facing the sector. These are the sorts of things you might wish to look at, as well as, of course, their own agenda and searching questions.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thank you. Councillor Glenn.
I was deciding, Chairman, whether I was going to say anything to this, but I'd like to. Roger's comments were absolutely spot on. I'm glad we've closed everything. Of course, all this went on before COVID, and I'd be very interested to see what the inspector is going to say, knowing that we have put most of our energies into basically keeping people alive, which is the real job of the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Service. And the secondary job, as far as I'm concerned, is basically making sure we run a tight ship. But let's get people alive first. So I'd like to see I'm looking forward to their attitude with their replies when they come back. It'll be very interesting. But the background, we must remember the background, that there's been a pandemic. And there may still be a pandemic when they come back to us, if they do. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Glenn. No one else? So if we go to the recommendation that we approve the closure of the HFRSA HMI CFRS action plan. And again, well done for getting that far. We'll see what they bring up next time round. What other issues yeah. Okay, thank you.
Agreed, Chairman.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, Chairman, is that with the pandemic, it gives them time to sit back and think of what little sort of issues they can bring up and think about.
Yes.
Well, good luck, all right?
Okay, thank you, everyone. If we go on to agenda item 12, which is the Fire Pension Board Annual Report 2019-20.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, members.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, I should probably record each year what I say on this because I say the same thing. So you'll recall that the history to pension boards was that there was Hutton Review, and one of the things that they found was that, particularly for public sector pension schemes, the employer was not undertaking the sort of responsibilities that was expected of them within those schemes. So pension boards were brought in for all public sector schemes. But we bought one in 2015. I think the key issue for me is when you look at what the pension board has covered for the year, and you look at all of the issues that we've looked at and all the legislation. Prior to 2015, none of that was in place. So I think it would be fair to say that there is an argument that pension boards should have been brought in. I think the issue for HFRA is that we are very fortunate in having what we call an employer pension manager. So that's somebody who works for pension for the shared services arrangement. They were previously within pension services, have very good knowledge of all of the LGPS, police and fire schemes. And because we are able to employ her across the three organisations, obviously we share in that cost. So that is a dedicated resource which we use for running the employer pension groups and also supporting the pension boards. I doubt many other fire authorities in the country have got that level of dedicated resource working on this sort of thing. So I think even Malcolm Eastwood, before he retired, suggested that the Hampshire Fire and Rescue Authority Pension Board almost didn't need to be there because we had those arrangements in place. But obviously we are still required to have that oversight. So what the annual report sets out is all of the things that have been reviewed in the year. Happy to take any questions on the detail, although there is a significant amount in it. Just one thing to also reflect on. So we had the latest pension board, I think it was last week. One of the things that we did pick up on and added a further recommendation is what the role of the pension board will be when we have a new CFA. So obviously the CFA will be a new legal entity, and in effect we will need to start again with the pension board, and also look at what sort of representation we can get from the Isle of Wight on that. So the pension board agreed to look at an options appraisal for what we could do from the 1st of April 2021, but I also need to explore what others have done in in that regard, because obviously it is a new situation, and whether or not we need to go through a whole formal process of appointing every single member and going through interviews, which I would hope to avoid, but we'll look at that as a specific process. That's what I was going to say, Chairman. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Rob, does the Isle of Wight already have a pension board for their service?
Yeah, so they already run a pension board. My understanding is that there are 2 employee representatives who have already expressed a wish to join the new CFA pension board.
Mm-hmm.
The only difficulty with that is that under the rules you have to have an equal number of employer reps and employee reps. So obviously they couldn't both join as employee reps, because then we would be unbalanced. There might be options for one of them to join as an employee rep and one of them to join as an employer rep, which will perhaps change their sort of approach to the boards. But as I think Councillor Bryce will agree, we don't have an adversarial position between the employee and the employer reps, which is the case on some other pension boards. So actually, in some respects, I don't think it matters which side you sit on. Actually, we're all collectively engaged in improving the sort of pensions position. So that might be a possibility, but we will bring back the options to the pension board for them to make recommendations to the full authority on that.
And having said that there's got to be equal numbers, Rob, is there a sort of statutory limit to the members of the board, or is that up to each individual service, how many you have on it?
Entirely up to you as to how many you have on it. Obviously, as you can appreciate, we haven't got people queuing up to be on pension boards. So having, so we've only got 3 at the moment. And whilst the last recruitment process was quite successful, as we heard at HFRA yesterday, we have struggled in the past to get the sort of quality of candidates to go on. So I don't think we would make it too big, but I think there's certainly scope for increasing it to 4 on each side in order to include the Isle of Wight.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Roger, do you want to comment at all?
Yes, I think that from the Pensions Board point of view, it's really keeping a very watchful eye upon the administration side to make sure all the legislation is actually being carried out. And with the SBB, or the SAB, is that the information is sent out from them to all of the administrators across the country who are dealing with fire. And it's up to us to make sure that those who are servicing the pensions are picking up all the legislation and enacting it as it should be done. Because I think that has been the issue of the past, as Rob has said, prior to 2015, things weren't happening. And I think pensions got into a right big mess, to be quite honest, not in Hampshire. But I think the biggest issue from my point of view is that getting the members of the schemes interested and involved in their pensions. That is a problem. I haven't got the figures in front of me, but there is quite a low percentage of people who actually sort of sign in. There's a web page which they can go into, they can check and look at their individual pensions, how it's building and what have you. And it's trying to get them interested before their date of retirement.
Yeah, I think it's only about 29%, Councillor Price.
Is it 29%, which is really very low, I think.
I would have thought that was pretty standard, Roger. I don't think anyone's interested into their pension until it's coming to them.
I know, but when you look at the local government pension scheme, that is fairly straightforward. But when you look at firefighters' pension schemes, because you've got 3 schemes, it isn't so straightforward as a normal scheme. And it is trying to get them to look at what's going on. And again, is that although there has been recent changes in legislation about taxation, certain people in the higher salary bands in the fire service can get caught out on taxation.
Yeah.
And it's all of these issues. It's trying to get people to start thinking about it as soon as they need to, rather than leaving it to the very last minute when it's very difficult to deal with anything.
Yeah. Okay, does the pension board send out messages to the members to let them know and advise them? Or is that not part of your remit?
Yeah, no, so communication is firmly part of the pension board's remit. So again, this is another area where we've done significantly more than we ever were before. So Claire holds sessions that the firefighters can come along to. She holds retirement sessions, and we regularly send out communications, usually around specific events. So annual benefit statements will go out next month. So we will do something that says annual benefit statements are going out. This is really important. You need to register here in order to be able to view it. Try and get those numbers up. And we've also just about sent something out. So you'll have heard of the McLeod case, which is very significant for all public sector schemes. They've just released a consultation on that about what the remedy will be. So again, we're putting something in routine notice to alert people to that. But we will also then try and do a frequently asked questions, a slightly simpler version than has been sent out by the Home Office, in order to just try and keep people informed.
Can I just also add is that I think that, as Rob alluded to earlier on, is there is very much cooperation between the members, the union side, and everybody within the committee to try and get information out to the members. I think at the last meeting, we talked about trying to get the union involved to make people aware of where they can go, what information they can get, so they can also push the same information out that we are as well. Good.
Thank you, Roger, for that. Councillor Glenn.
Right. Thank you very much, Chairman. One good thing that's come out of COVID-19 is that we're all aware of the cleaner air that we've got out there, and that there's been less city pollution with the lack of the number of cars and transport having reduced to almost nil at one point. Okay. Now, one way of getting members involved in their pensions is to educate them, not just the members, but also the board members, on what I mentioned earlier, the ESG, the environmental, social, and governance principles behind investment these days. And I'm not going to go into detail, but if the communication is going on well, that's great. But maybe we should actually say, if we are doing it, that we are addressing ESG. And if we've got any opinions about it, please write in. It's one of these areas that people do get interested in, especially those who care about the environment. And I'll give an example. My own parish council has just agreed with regards to the Hampshire pension that they want to know that we're not investing in any fossil fuels or any fossil fuel companies. So it's growing, and I just think it's something that we ought to do if we're not doing it already.
So I can answer that. So obviously, so unlike the LGPS, the fire scheme is not a funded scheme. So there is no there is no investment of a fund. So whilst that's relevant for the LGPS, it doesn't actually apply to fire.
In that case, I stand corrected. I've learned something. I sit corrected.
Yeah.
I think this is the difference between the firefighters. It's all government money. It comes out of the government pot, and the money which the service and the individual firefighters pay into the scheme goes into the government pot, not into a managed scheme. And I think that's really so different. And that's why that, and I think it's probably the same as a number of other schemes. I think the police is the same.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I think teachers might be as well. I think theirs is different. And a lot of people think it's an invested scheme, but it's not. And I think, to be quite honest, in my personal opinion, it would be a much better scheme if it was. I mean, in some ways, I would like to see the government say, right, the valuation of firefighters' pensions are this across the country, put that into a scheme, and then set it up as a managed scheme like the county or the
LGPS.
LGPS. And I think it would be much better. It could be much easier managed. I think that firefighters' pension schemes have got so complicated with different ones and different people in different schemes, there are options to transfer from one scheme to another or not, and if they don't, what are the implications? It's so complex, and it would be much better to have a much better and easier scheme. But
I agree.
I can't see it happening.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
No, I think you're right, Roger. I don't think it's going to happen. But if we go to the recommendation that we receive this report and we note the contents, and the Standards and Governance Committee provides any feedback to the Fire Pension Board on previous work or on the future areas of priority. Well, to be fair, Roger, I think you're probably doing a wonderful job trying to get people interested in their pensions. As I say, I think it's something that's incredibly difficult until you're within a year of retiring. People just assume it's going to be there and don't worry. Yeah. So anyway, thank you all. Can you pass on our thanks, Roger, to the pension board next time you meet?
I certainly will.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Councillor Carter, do you want to say anything else, or are you quite happy? Content?
I am very content. I would like to add my congratulations to Rob Carr and, of course, Claire Neal. It's a very complex and detailed report, and it summarises the number of schemes. As Roger said, it's complex, confusing for the pension members. There are 4 schemes, because 2006 was modified, so there are 4 different schemes. So it's so complicated, but this is a very detailed report. So I congratulate everybody involved. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chris. Roger, you wanted to come back?
Yeah, if I could just come back very quickly. I mean, the point about being the complicated schemes is that there's 5 organisations up and down the country that administer, or fire authorities or county authorities, whoever ministers it. There's 5 separate organisations that have just given notice that they're going to stop dealing with their the firefighters' pension schemes, and they're going to have to look to find new people to actually administer them. It has got so complicated. Nobody really wants to know about it.
Oh dear, that just makes it worse.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad this is a meeting in public.
Okay. Anyone got anyone else? Any other business? Anyone want to say anything? No? No. Right, well, thank you all very much. You want to stop the recording now, please?
Have we agreed the recommendations, Chairman?
I think so. Everyone nodded.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, then they were for noting.
Yeah, and they were for noting anyway. But there was loads of nods, Jonathan.
Good, okay.
Okay. So could we stop the recording?